At the end of part 3 we got to the stage of saying here's a manual slideshow, but we could use the insert slideshow and it opens up a Slideshow Creator. So the purpose of this particular video is really simple, and that is to replicate on desktop using Vegas Movie Studio Platinum 15 the video here, which is PowerDirector Android. So I'm going to take a look at that, and what I'm getting to is this. What you see on screen is my screen of Android with a dozen slides and some music, and it was made on Android PowerDirector. When I sort of emphasize that, I'm trying to figure out the learning within my own head, and that is that if you go along and you say, okay, convert your travel photos into videos with PowerDirector, because that's where it's kind of the idea come from, and you've got this idea of a timeline which is blank, and you go through the video very, very quickly, and you use the Ken Burns default pan and zoom, and then you load this thing up, and it's pretty much done. And I elected, without the fiddly bits, there was one, to keep the black borders on the outside. So the moral of this is really simple, and that is that can you do it easily if you are learning Vegas or a desktop editor, video editor, but without being overwhelmed and just get so annoyed with it. Now let's be honest. If you have a bag full of different tools, you can only use the tool, or even for that matter the bag, that actually fits the purpose. So in this example, let's follow it through and then you can decide for yourselves. Now this is the way it works. Now although the media of the dozen slides and the MP3 music is in, what I need to do at this stage is decide how to use the pictures, shall we say, to the best advantage. Now although the project is set up as 16:9 and all the rest of it, I'm going to insert a slideshow, and it opens up like this. Just bear with me on this, and that is Slideshow Creator opens up. I don't hardly use it, but you can see the different way that you're working. I'm also using a 21.5 monitor, which is 1920 by 1080, which is really big compared, quite honestly, to the same dots, but on my Moto G. So we go to add some pictures, and I've got it, I think, yeah, there it is there. I've saved it already. Now all I need to do at this stage is select all of the pictures. Let me just do that on the keyboard. I'm doing shift and right arrow, and I'm selecting the 12. There's no order to them at this stage, but they will just open up. So the only one that I do actually want to go first is that one. So if I drag it over, I think that's the order that they want to go through in this example. Right, so what do I do next? Now I could hit create, but I've got to look. I still think that this screen that you're actually looking at, rotate clockwise, move, +1, -1, is a bit archaic. I can shuffle them. It works though. Settings, right, start at the cursor. My cursor is at the very beginning, thankfully. Great. The duration, time per picture, I'm going to say 5 seconds. The reason I was going to say 5 seconds is because that is what the PowerDirector Android was done in. Now the big deal here, it's really interesting, is a random. Now I've got a carousel, fades with pan and zooms, all different pan and zoom things, film strips, hearts and stars, news flash. There's a ton of different things that I can do. Now the first thing, if I count them, is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 12, 13, 14. I got 16 different ways, sci-fi, and only one way on Android. So I got 16 different ways of doing this. Let's go with a pan and zoom, a random pan and zoom with an overlap of a second, which I think is the same as PowerDirector, and let's see what happens. Create. That was quick, wasn't it? Pretty painless. Now what have we got? Let's bring the music in the normal way. Done. No, that's not done actually. Make sure that your cursor, if you like, is at the start. So let's just play a little bit and see what actually has. I'm quite interested to see what happens here. Play. Oh, sorry. Play. Interesting. So rather than just a straightforward fade, we've actually got different slide transition. So the slide transition here that it has put in has got a Vegas slide transition, and that is an angled slide. So it's going to be pretty much random. It's an interesting thing that we're doing here, I think. When I say interesting, not for me, for the learner who wants to come along and say, look, there are tons of different ways to eat a dinner every night. You know, sometimes it could be Chinese, Indian, pasta, an English meal, fish and chips, whatever. But the thing is, it's in choice. So if I just play this again, what is this one got? And there you go. There is a nice dissolve through white. Now, if I go frame by frame, and this is the beautiful thing, on Android we can only do 1/10 of a second, and that's really fiddly to, not really fiddly, you have to pinch zoom it in, but this one, look, you can go in and you can say, right, that's the start, fade, 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 or dissolve rather, dissolve through white, and it brings it back. Really interesting the way you can go frame by frame. I think we need to finish there because it's interesting. So that was like for like. I think I could actually make one of these, but you get the point. What I'm really encouraging people to do, you know, in a teachery way, is to sort of say to yourself, well, look, video is, you know, all over the world here. You know, I say over the world, over the internet, and people are doing it, but I'm not convinced. Look at that circle. That people are actually taking the time to learn, especially with this machine learning and AI. It's like, oh, we've gone away on the cloud, and here's one we did earlier. Do you want to save it? And me included, I go, yeah. And then I think afterwards, well, you know, Shakespeare didn't do that when they had a quill in the 16th century. He just sat down and obviously I wasn't around in the 16th century, nor were you. But the point of it is, how was it done? That's a nice way to end. And in this moment, we will go to a sunset. Yeah, that's good enough. See you later.